Mario Kart, the silly Nintendo-developed racing game that is surprisingly considered one of the most stressful video game series for players. Could it be its competitive nature? Or maybe the evil blue shell that is bound to get you when you're about to win? I don't know. But one thing's for sure, it's hella fun. My personal first Mario Kart game came with Mario Kart 7 on the 3DS, actually being my first Nintendo game to own, as it was a pack-in title for only $80. Oh, how times have changed. However, for a majority of the recent past decade, one game has always been in the mind of people when talking about Mario Kart, that being Mario Kart 8 releasing on the Wii U. But screw that thing. We can't talk about 8 when his older brother 8 Deluxe is in question, releasing as a remaster on the Nintendo Switch back in April 2017. This is the game I'll be choosing to reference, being the version 50 million more people have bought with the Switch's success. For so many people, this was peak Mario Kart. I mean, what more was there to have? Amazing feeling controls, the biggest roster of characters to date at that point, and an anti-gravity mechanic that allowed for extremely creative track design. Until now. With Mario Kart World just recently releasing on the Switch 2, which I very gratefully managed to get my hands on, I want to do a dive into what each game excels at, fails at, or what was fine but was probably due for an upgrade. This will be through a multitude of categories, excluding anything about World's abysmal price of $80. Before this, make sure to subscribe and let's get her racing. Mario Kart 8 tracks for the most part had some phenomenal layouts. Utilizing anti-gravity, you'd be going upside down and you wouldn't even know it. They had their fair share of alternate pathways like this one on Wario's Gold Mine. And for experienced players, you can't forget the crazy shortcuts. But realistically, in order to get significant time loss that goes beyond simply cutting corners, there is a large skill gap. You need specific items, angles, timing. It's pretty tedious to master each of the 98 tracks, if you count DLC. But still, it always felt like you had something to be doing, as the pacing was high and turns were constant. This isn't always something you could say about Mario Kart World, however, which if you know anything about what the intermission tracks are, you'd know nothing but straight paths. Or are they? I mean, in essence, since intermission tracks utilize the game's gimmick being the world itself, these tracks are bound to be filled with many vehicles and other obstacles, preventing it from being too lackluster. I, for one, find it fun for the most part, but do agree the intermission layout should be locked to Knockout Tour, and should have left the Grand Prix to standalone tracks too. But getting onto those tracks in their 3-lap form, I think generally their designs surpass that of Mario Kart 8. Before you start booing, hear me out. While tracks like Koopa Troopa Beach and Starview Peak don't really utilize the game's core mechanics of rail grinding and wall riding, the tracks that do allow for not only crazy track design with more paths than Mario Kart 8, but crazier shortcuts too, since they now involve using the mentioned mechanics to gain verticality, really add to the fun. At least for now, as long as you're not going for a world record pace, the skill range to complete shortcuts like this on Whistle Stop Summit is pretty broad. It helps even out the playing field a little more too. Your screen might not be as densely packed with things to worry about in Mario Kart World, but it doesn't take away from what I believe to be better tracks than Mario Kart 8, mainly due to their traversability. The tracks are still hit or miss, but so is 8's catalog. One thing is for sure, 98 is still a little more than 32. Let's hope we get a DLC for World in the future in some way or another, since just 32 after a few years is gonna get pretty sad. The selection of characters in World is really solid, going on to ensure some of the mainstays like Pauline are in the initial selection, while adding some iconic NPC characters from past Mario games, like Cataquack and the legend itself, Cow. Removing characters like Link and Isabelle might suck to some, but let's remember this is Mario Kart, not Nintendo Kart. However, one triggering omission we can never forgive Nintendo is for removing the king of funkiness himself, Funky Kong. They really went out of their way to bring Funky Kong to the Booster Course Pass for the first time since Wii, and then booted him immediately after. Bruh. Anyway, the selection screen is better in 8 in every way, because how do you traverse this monstrosity? Why not keep it on one page? Oh well. I'm honestly fine with there being a bundle of enemy characters slapped onto the roster world, but the way you unlock them with the Kamek item is not only tedious, but it also requires RNG too. That is not fun. I'm gonna give it to 8. Since there's so many customization options and items to go over throughout both the games, I'll crush this down to a singular component. When Mario Kart World came out, it introduced multiple new items and vehicles, but stuck to nerfing what was wrong in Mario Kart 8, more so, to make races more equal. For example, the Lightning Shock, which was infamously overpowered for being able to blitz past your opponents in last place to first without question, was changed so that it only shocked those in front of you, but also for a shorter period of time. This way, players could get back into the game far quicker rather than being stuck as Tiny for multiple precious seconds. Car customization was also nerfed, taking away the ability to choose individual carts, wheels, or gliders, so you could go straight into the race without delay. Though I don't know if this worked entirely as intended due to the bad character select screen. For me, simpler is better. Content, in simple terms, is how I'd see the game for not only how playable it is initially, but also how much it is coming back to the game weeks, months, or even multiple years later. Mario Kart 8, being obvious by people playing it through its entire 11-year lifespan, is filled with loads of content in terms of tracks. With a whopping 48 in the base game and 98 with DLC, there is no shortage of tracks to play and master each shortcut, whether through single player or online. Deluxe is infamous for turning the battle mode upside down compared to the Wii U game, with fully fledged out stages and many different game modes like Renegade Roundout and Shine Thief. If you don't want to play the tracks or do battle mode, you're kind of out of luck, just like every previous installment. Until Mario Kart World, that is, because with the free roam, you have an entire open map to explore with a variety of collectibles and almost 400 P-Switch missions to complete. On first playthrough, it's non-stop fun, carried by free roam and the new knockout tour mode. But that's the thing, after the first playthrough, it gets pretty dull. After doing everything in the free roam, it becomes pretty bare bones, and there's technically only 30 tracks to play, since 2 are duplicates. Since Mario Kart 8 has more content for the long run, but Mario Kart World has more to do initially, I'll give it a tie. As it can be seen for the time being, Mario Kart World both brings plenty to the table but also faces some flaws that I could see as the reason for why you go back to Mario Kart 8. Despite being equally great games, 8 had its lifespan for the entirety of the Wii U and Switch eras, and I would recommend anyone to try something new with this game. Originally, it looked like Nintendo was going to enforce their new intermission types of tracks, but as of recently, they put out an update increasing the likelihood of 3-lap tracks when online, so you'll be getting about an equal mix of both. Not the best, but what can you do with Nintendo? Let me know which games you have or prefer in the comments down below. And if you don't have a Switch 2, with the new Donkey Kong Bonanza, which is a phenomenal game coming out, and time running out for the Mario Kart World $500 bundle, I'd go for it. The Switch era was fun, but times have changed. We're playing with real power now.
Superpower.